they'll say the strategy is to 10x this year. Like, that's a really terrible strategy. It's an absolutely horrible idea because founders are incredibly lonely. So most businesses have single founders, like 75% or something like that, like most of them. And if you're just going to be copying a trendy strategy, something that you've seen online or heard like the cool kids at a conference talk about, you're not going to win because one, that's not who you are.
Pierre, are you in the right place?
Am I in the right place?
Welcome to the Right Place podcast, where we learn with you how to build connections that matter, relationships that last, and businesses that thrive. My name is John Watson, and today I'm talking to Pierre Du Plessis. He's the founder of Be Brave. He's an author, a strategist, a conspirator, and a very interesting person. Pierre, great to chat to you today.
Hi, John. Thank you so much. It's great being here. Thank you so much for asking and being brave.
Talking about being brave, Pierre, what is the bravest thing you've ever done?
Get married. Getting married,
answer.
yeah. Getting married, having kids. I think that's the bravest thing I've ever done. And then maybe jumping off a bridge and doing bungee jumping or something weird. Yeah, but like starting a family, easily like the hardest and bravest thing I've ever done. Probably one of the bravest things is to get up on a stage and start speaking to people, and then obviously like founding your own business. I mean, that's crazy. Who does that? So yeah, just crazy people, mad people, hopefully brave people.
Yeah, so talking about jumping on the stage, we met at the Cycle Finance Leaders Conference November last year. You had the graveyard shift where I was doing the MC work there at the leadership stream. Last slot on the last day, and I was like, oh my word, shame, this guy, it's going to be a tough crowd. But you hit it out the park. You did your talk from teams to tribes, went down very well. You say you're not an extrovert, but you seem very comfortable on stage. Pierre, how do you do what you do on stage?
How do I do what I do on stage? Oh God, yeah, I'm not an extrovert. I don't think I'm an extrovert. I don't know, those terms sometimes are a bit weird, but on stage for me, I think one of the things that I do is I write a talk or create a talk or content or lecture or whatever, and I keep on creating it and I keep on crafting it and sort of wordsmithing it until I get a deep sense of excitement, that I'm so excited that I have to share this with somebody. I was like, this is such a freaking cool idea. I have to tell someone. And up until, if I don't get that feeling, I know the talk isn't ready, like it's not there. So when I get up on stage and also try and spend quite a bit of time, I usually arrive early for an event, if I can, even the day before in the morning, and then spend some time just walking the conference and looking at the audience. And it's an old Methodist preacher that gave me this advice. It's like, you always have to look at your audience or the people that you're going to speak to, and you look at them until you love them. Right. So, and sometimes it takes a while, especially at a finance conference. It takes a while, and you're like standing and looking at people until you care for them. And you go, I care for these people. I really am excited about what I need to share, what I want to share. And with that energy, I get onto the stage and then go, okay, I have to tell you this. This is going to change your life.
No, I think that's a great answer. Yeah, great advice for speakers like that. Because if you're not excited about talking about it, I mean, why even bother? Why even show up? I mean, you're just going to waste your time and everyone else's time.
Yeah, absolutely. Like it's the speaker's rule is like an audience will only enjoy your talk as much as you enjoy giving it. So if you're not loving talking and giving it and sharing it with them, they're not going to love it. So yeah, I'm glad that Psycho conference went well. That was a fun talk.
Excellent, Pierre. No, I really enjoyed it, and and we've stayed connected ever since then. And you've been a regular visitor to the Clara Business Network here in Cape Town. And Pierre, at our last meeting, we did a few rounds of speed networking, and everyone had to answer two questions: why are you here, and what problem do you solve? And then a couple of days later, you shared those answers on LinkedIn. And for the second one, you wrote, when you don't know what to do and feel tied down and confused, I help you figure out how to win. Why do you think people feel tied down and confused nowadays?
Well, I think they feel tied down and confused in a business sense and in a personal sense because the world is really chaotic in general. And I think we we like to say that the world is chaotic right now, but we've been saying that for like 20 years. I'm going, maybe this is just the way it is, right? And this is just the way that adulthood really is. So all of us that have grown up in the last 20 or 30 years going, it's really crazy. It's like, yeah, that's sort of what it is. And making decisions is really difficult. Like you have to weigh the pros and cons. You have to think what's best for you, what's best for your business, best for your family, what's life giving, what's the biggest risk. So there's a lot of like different variables and things in play, and that can be um, it can tie you down. It gives you like decision fatigue. You don't actually know which one to choose. And in the world we live in, if you live in a privileged place and space like we do, is you have lots of options. So you can work here, you can work there, you can enter this market, you can enter that market, you can build this, you can build that. So or you can take this job, you can take that job, and you can start this business or that one. And there's a million different options. And the wider the world becomes, the more options there are. So the more difficult it becomes to choose. So and then often what happens is we don't want to make a decision, because if you make a decision, if you choose the one thing, it means the other one immediately goes away. So and that's risky. So we rather choose both. So we just keep on doing both and doing everything. So and eventually, when you keep on doing everything, your hands are so full that you can't actually accept anything new that comes, and you can't really focus. So your focus gets sort of diluted, and this happens in businesses and in personal lives. It's like people take on all of the different things, all of the opportunities, and then eventually do nothing or do nothing really well. And so that's what I'm passionate about. I'm passionate about helping people, is figuring out what should you be focusing on and how can you win actually. So how can you actually make the best of it and succeed at whatever you've chosen.
No, that's very interesting, Pierre. And during this process, when you're helping people figure out how to win, I mean, it's not as if you walk into the building and you've got the answer within 5 minutes. I mean, you're going to facilitate a conversation,
Mm.
hear what are the pain points, use your wisdom and experience to kind of lay a bit of a framework for moving forward. And then you've got to
Yeah.
almost facilitate people making very difficult decisions.
Yeah, so the process, I mean, I don't like the word consultant, because like as consultant, it gives the impression that you have the answers and you're telling people what to do. And I refuse to tell people what to do. So my role, or our role, is to almost be like a modern day augur, like reading the signs, looking for patterns, and then pointing that out, asking questions. And often in a session, things that happen, and I would say something like, "Did you notice that in yesterday's session you also said this, and that Susie over here also said that, but in a different way, but it's a similar thing. And there's a thread here that's running through that might be an invitation for your team to go and explore, right?" So that's the way in which you do it. So the way in which Be Brave works, and the way in which I work, is a very sort of intuitive, kind of gut feeling, sensing place, and listening to stories, listening to what people found life giving, what did they find like soul destroying, and then layering that over the facts, like the successes and the failures in the business or in the personal lives, and skills and strengths and weaknesses and all those things, and then layering all those things together, and then helping them to discover what do they actually need to choose, like which one is the most life-giving option at this point, and then what do you bring to the table as a human being uniquely. So and that process takes time. It's like digging and figuring out, and conversation upon conversation, and long talks, and sensing and feeling, and sometimes tears comes up in like strategy sessions. So my scribe, so I don't talk about an assistant. We have a scribe that helps to record the sessions while we do a strategy session, and it happens often. The first time she helped doing scribing, she was so surprised that in the first session people often cry, and she's like, "This is a business strategy session. Why are people crying?" I was like, "Well, because it's really personal. Like business is really personal, and you share your own journey, and you bring your whole self to a business, and it's out of that we start, out of that sort of space that we start to like build and try to discern what is the way forward." So It often happens in our strategy sessions that people get really emotional.
No, I've actually seen that in person myself at a company I was at a couple of years ago. And what I ascribed it to then was that sometimes these strategy sessions facilitate a big release of tension. There's been different camps with different feelings about different directions that the company should go in. And
Yeah,
you almost have forced to pick a side, and your friends on one side, your enemies on the other side, some of your enemies on your side. And it's just this big mess ball of wool full of tension and emotion. And as soon as you start talking about it and you've got outside facilitate, I think the masks come off, the emotions come out, and people start,
yeah,
"Well, this is real. I didn't know you felt like that." And you see how much people actually care about their part of the puzzle of work. And I
yeah,
think it's a testament to doing this on a regular basis, because if you're not doing this, this tension builds up, and this can be really debilitating to companies.
yeah. Absolutely. And I think that's definitely part of it. Back to the first question, like getting tied up and confused. It's like all these different directions and all these different energies exist at the same time. And what makes these strategy sessions so helpful, and why people should have them regularly, quarterly is best, I think, and at least annually, is to like just weed the garden, like take out all the stuff that doesn't really matter anymore, get alignment. And it's so you can communicate to the rest of the business. And this is one of the things that we always find, is that because there's all these tensions and energies in the air and different directions, and people have different focuses, and it's all sort of tied up and messy. When you run a company feedback kind of survey, the number one thing that people always say is like better communication, right? So then
Yep.
the leadership often takes that as, we just have to say things more and louder. And but that's not what they're actually asking. So you have to kind of read like what's behind it. They're not asking for more communication. They're asking for a strategy. They're asking for, we need to understand how we're actually going to win. So what is the goal, and then how are we going to win? How are we going to get there? What do I need to do today? Like if I arrive at my desk, my job, my computer, what do I need to do? Do I understand where we're actually going, and how can we communicate that in a really simple and clear way, and not sort of fall into the trap of complexity, thinking that complexity equals success or equals strategy. It doesn't.
No, I think that's a valid point, because also you might have a once a year strategy session, which most companies do. But just because you've had the session and then you communicate it every now and then, the strategy is still up to my interpretation. If the strategy is X, my gut feeling about it or my interpretation of how we should get there is going to be different to somebody else's. So then I channel my efforts in a certain direction to meet the strategic goals. And then at the end of the year, no one's on the same page because we haven't checked in with each other. There hasn't been
Yeah.
this space to communicate about this. And are we pulling in the same direction, or are we just pulling in multiple directions,
Yeah.
thinking we're going to end up at the same place?
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. And I think there's something to that, because I often think that the way strategies are built is, people think strategies are just goal setting. So they'll say the strategy is to 10x this year. It's like, that's a really terrible strategy. It's an absolutely horrible idea, because what you're telling your people is, just do what you do now, just do it 10 times harder, like just, or 10 times more. Like,
Mm,
which is it's horrible, like horrible way to it's a horrible strategy and a horrible way to communicate if it doesn't tell you how. Like it needs to tell you how. Like that's the core part of it. It's like how we win. So that's why the answer to that is, I don't know what to do, I'm confused and tied up. The answer to that is not set a goal, because that's not going to help you. The answer is how. Like, how do you actually get there? What do you have to do now? What do you have to do next? Like, that's the thing. So, and that's where the communication needs to happen. The communication isn't the goal. I mean, expand internationally. That's the strategy. You go, okay, how? Like, what am I supposed to do now? I sit here at my desk. I'm like three rungs down from whoever said the strategy. It's like, I have no idea what that even means. So, but how? What do I do right now? And that's what needs to be communicated clearly in in an extremely simple way.
Now, Pierre, you previously worked with Dion Chang and Bronwyn Williams at Flux Trends, quite a cool
Yes.
organization. Do you find companies sometimes chasing trendy strategy ideas that they saw on YouTube or read in a book that are obviously not a good fit for them?
Yeah, often. We are creatures of comparison. So we're always looking around us to see, what the cool kids are doing. And then we all try and be like the cool kids. So I often joke and say it's peer pressure, peer pressure. Like that's why you
Peer
want to do
pressure.
that. Why do you, yeah. Why you want to, why you want to be like peers, who's peer pressure. We all want to be like the cool kids and the trendy stuff. And like, you all want to like add AI into our like tagline on our website, AI empowered, and then into your business here, like whatever that is, right? To try and do what the cool kids are doing. And you should never fall into the trap of comparison because you're not them. And also trying to do what somebody else is doing is really a recipe for disaster because you want to try and be the ultimate strategy is to not be in competition. Like the ultimate strategy is to be a monopoly. So that you're doing something that's so unique to such a unique market that there is no competition. And in order to get to that space takes a lot of work, a lot of thinking, a lot of reflecting, a lot of discerning to figure out where you actually want to play and how you're actually going to win. So how are you actually different? And if you're just going to be copying a trendy strategy, something that you've seen online or heard like the cool kids at a conference talk about, you're not going to win because one, that's not who you are. Like, and that's why I think our strategy sessions we start with like personal stories and personal values and those things as well because it defines the team defines how the company can actually win. So yes, we see that often, and I mean, I still do. We still do a lot of work with Bronwyn and Dion from Flux Trains because they do the futures part, and then we do the strategy part. So they sketch the future and scare everybody properly, and like give everybody like a little bit of hope as well. To be fair, and then we come and say, but how is your business? How can your business respond to these things and to these trends? And so that it works like we work very well together, but the temptation to just copy somebody is real and it should be acknowledged and then it should be avoided.
No, absolutely. I agree with you there. Talking about your past life and some of the careers you've had, I love this quote by Arthur Jones who says, your organization is perfectly designed to deliver your current results. Now, you were an ex-fashion designer many years ago. How do you
Yeah.
combine strategy and organizational design to deliver better results?
So
Yes.
my journey went from fashion to advertising to marketing. I think those two things are different things. Advertising, marketing, branding, and then went into product design, product development, which then led me to the startup world, which then led me to teams and team building, and then which led to strategy. So that was sort of the roadmap, like a high level view of it. And I think when I come to why we talk about design and like strategy design and design a lot, because that's like part of my roots is fashion design and product design and those types of things. And design is always the difference between art and design is that art is the need to reply and design is the reply to a need. And at the very base of what business is, it's a reply to a need. So when I use in our strategy work now and sort of org design things, we're thinking about the customer, we're thinking about the need, we're thinking about how do we reply to that need? How do we create something that replies to a need, whether that need is said or unsaid? Like sometimes people don't know what they want, so you have to sort of intuitively decide what people are going to want or need. And I think the way my history in design and the creative fields, branding, advertising, marketing, fashion, taught me to look at the world in a conceptual way and also to combine and look for not obvious connections and patterns. So in design, you would often, especially like in fashion design or advertising, you combine things that seem like they don't go together in order to create something new. And it's often in that way where you can design a very unique strategy for a business. If you combine two things that seem like they shouldn't be going together, but then in the end you get them to fit together and they create a new product or a new category. And that's where you create like a monopoly or you differentiate. So then you don't have any competition because you've created something new. And so that's where my design background kind of comes in and plays into the way we think and work with strategy.
Okay, no, that's excellent. I mean, it's always good to be able to build on the experience that you've had and been around the block, seeing different things, because, like you said, it does give you that that bird's eye view of how things can work. And then you get to a client, get to a company, and you can say, hey, this makes me think of this when I was a designer, or this when I was in advertising. And maybe if we take this thing and add this thing, this is part of the strategy that can work, because it makes me think of that direction, or it just is a fresher approach than just doing what we did last year and adding 10%.
Yeah, exactly, right. So it's like one of my friends, who's a founder CEO, and he's like, he always thought strategy was, he called it strategy by spreadsheet. And then we actually made a post on Be Brave side that says we don't do strategy by spreadsheet. Because he's like, the strategy was, the numbers aren't going like this way up on the one side, so we need the numbers to go up. Okay, so how do we do that? So the way we do that is we change the number in this cell. And then if we change this number in this cell, then that'll go up. It's like, boom, strategy done, right? Which is not, and this is a big business, like fairly big business, right? And that's how they used to do strategies. Like, we're just going to work harder. We're going to grow. We need to grow twice. Okay, so that's the new strategy. What are we going to do? We're going to grow twice, like, which obviously doesn't work and will burn out your team. So we don't do that.
Yeah. No, that's very funny. Yeah, very funny. I come from the world of spreadsheets, and I think I still have nightmares, all these endlessly long strategy documents, annual performance plans, quarterly plans, this and that. And people switch off immediately. You can't see the big picture in a spreadsheet of 1 million cells. It's just impossible. You don't know what is the direction. You don't know, and it's difficult to communicate because it's so big and so overwhelming.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the threat of complexity. It's like that if something is complex, therefore it must be clever or it must be good. And it's not true. Like, if your strategy can't fit on one page, then it's not a good strategy. It needs to be able to fit onto one page. It needs to be 2 or 3 sentences long. And it's really difficult to create something that's simple. And that's what we try and do. And it's often when you create like a 200-page strategy doc that your staff will say, we need better communication. It's like, yeah, but we've created a 200-page strategy doc, and they still say we need better communication. What they're asking for is simplicity. It's like simplicity and simple instructions. So get it. Yeah, it has to fit on a single page. This is who we are. This is how we're going to win. These are our goals. Right. That's what you're aiming for in the end. And the temptation for complexity is real. And there's often meetings that we've sat in where post a design session, people will go, but where's everything? It's like, no, this is one page. This is it. And once people start understanding that and grasping it, that it works really well. It works really well to align the business and the teams.
Now, talking about those meetings, oftentimes when you're in a strat session, maybe you're leading it or facilitating it, there's sacred cows, there's elephants in the room that can really hinder a strategy session. How do you navigate that and tackle these no-go zones?
So I work really hard. We have specific processes that we use to create a safe space. So to hold a safe space for the duration of the session, normally it's like across 2 days, and giving people permission to be vulnerable and to be real, and giving permission for people to name it. And that's why our business is called Be Brave, so that you would actually name stuff. And I don't as facilitator, and we're normally 2 facilitators in the room, but we don't shy away from naming it. Like, if I spot something and I see some elephant in the room, you name it. And also, like, in a strategy session, we'd often like name, people would go, they'll say something like, the people are saying, or customers are saying, like using general terms to try and be polite. And then my pushback to those things would always be, name it. Who said that? Who said what? Oh no, it was, Susan from accounting. So it's like, okay, but we all know Susan, then we know what's going on there. Like, what's the context of that? So naming things specifically, and also naming like elephants in the room, because then you can talk about it, you can discuss it, you can fight about it, and then you can give hugs afterwards and move forward. Otherwise, you're not moving forward. You're just going to get tied down by that stuff. Secrets damage a soul and damage a business. So you need to like get them out.
No, that's a great strategy. I think if you can name it, then you can almost start to either cancel it, or you can say, look, we need to stop the funding, or we need to wrap this up. But
Yeah.
if we're dancing around the object, it's not going to be part of your new strategy, but it's still going to be there. And it's still going to have to get fed. It's still going to have to get looked after and communicated about. Where if you bring it to light, let's just name it to tame it. Let's sort this out once and for all. We've gone around in circles. It's not working. Pull the plug or redirect or do something about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Kill your darlings.
Yeah,
Maybe
kill
like
your
that's
dog.
yeah, that's you have to be, it's like try not to sound trite, but you have to be brave to name something. And like naming something is massively important. Like human beings, we are really good at naming things. We name everything. We name our computers, we name rivers and mountains and whatever. So name our kids and pets and everything. So we're good at naming. Like it gives us handles on something. So it can place it in a box. And when we refuse to name something, then it has power. It's this like the classic fairy tales. Like you need to name the monster. You need to figure out what the name is of the villain, and then you have power over the evil spirit or the whatever. So those stories tell us a great truth, like that there's power in naming. And our reluctance to name something that's wrong in an organization or something that we shouldn't be doing, and in your own life as well, like these things are obviously interchangeable. Like our restraint in naming actually causes us a great deal of damage. So being honest and being truthful, your mother was right. You should tell the truth.
Yes. Yeah, telling the truth. Never
Yeah,
goes out of fashion.
yeah, it never goes out of fashion. Yeah.
No, excellent, Pierre. Now, Pierre, you've got a passion for founders, for helping them. What do you see are the biggest threats facing founders in 2024?
Other than funding, it's always like first thing, the biggest threat for founders is funding. One of the biggest threats is two. So one of the biggest ones is loneliness. Founders are incredibly lonely. So most businesses have single founders, like 75% or something like that. Like most of them have single founders. And the biggest threat, there was a beautiful study done by Heavy Chef in the entrepreneur and small medium business community last year and the year before, and they're continuing researching it. And they found that the biggest indicator of success for a founder was the quantity and quality of their relationships to fellow founders. Like if you have a solid support group around you, your chances for success go up exponentially. Founders are lonely. And it's a tricky thing to be a founder, because that's sort of the second part, that the second biggest challenge for a founder is that there's a there's a massive sort of not need, what's the word? There's a massive tendency towards like a feeling like an imposter. Like I don't want to call it imposter syndrome. That's why I'm struggling to find a word, because I don't think it's a syndrome. It's a sort of a result of being a founder. You are constantly in spaces that are new, that you don't know what you're doing, that you're trying to figure it out on the go, while you still have to pay salaries, pay the rent, get stock, like make sure the business floats, and then at the same time keep investors happy. But deep inside, you think, I have no idea. Like I have no idea what I'm doing. And so at some point, everybody's going to find out, and then I'm going to be ruined, right? So they live with that feeling all the time. This sort of feeling of being like an imposter, feeling fake, feeling like you have to put on this brave face, go and stand in front of your investors, while in the back of your mind you're thinking, how can I get out? Like, if how much petrol do I have in the car? If I start driving now, I'll be, in Kuruman by sunset and nobody can find me. Like, and that's very real for a founder, that experience. And that combined with the loneliness is why people quit, and why businesses don't make it, and why they eventually leave and they go get a job in corporate or something. But it's those things, I think, are the two biggest struggles, other than funding. Funding is always number one. When you ask a founder what's the biggest struggle, they'll always say funding first.
No, that's very interesting, Pierre. And I think now that you've named it, hopefully some other founders will be like, yeah, that's what I'm experiencing. It's lonely.
Yeah.
I'm stuck between the shareholders, my employees, my big idea. I've got my family at home. I want to go surfing. I also want to play golf or paddle every now and then. And I'm just stuck between everything. And it's all on me to kind of make this happen. No, I can imagine it's really tough out there.
Yeah, it's it's extremely tough for them, and it also on relationships and marriages. And so if your husband or your wife, you can only complain so much and share so much about the business to them, like, because
Yeah.
that also makes them freak out. They're going, "What do you mean there's no money? Like, why are you doing this again? Why, why are we signing our house away again? Because you really believe in this project? Who told you this?" And they're saying, "I really, 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 really believe in it. That's your proof." So you
Mm.
can only share so much to your spouse, and you need like a separate community, a separate
Yes.
space where you can talk, and a way to journey through it, and just to
Yes.
acknowledge and name it. I think that's a part of the work that I'm really passionate about. Is like being real about that journey and going, this is what it's like to be a founder. I'm confused half the time, I'm stressed out, but I'm also really passionate and excited about what we're building. And
Mm.
I also have a deep sense of feeling like an imposter. So, and this is real. Like, how do you navigate that? And that's one of the things that I'm passionate to try and help with, to help founders with, and help them figure out, what am I supposed to be doing, and
Mm.
acknowledging the struggle, how hard that actually is, and trying to give them tools and then ways to move through that.
That's excellent, Pierre. One of the founders that you know is Richard Mulholland, quite a character. And he called you the Ernest Hemingway to their Dan Brown, the Pink Floyd to their Nickelback. It's all over your website. I haven't got a personal problem with Nickelback. I must say, I found their recent documentary on Netflix to be quite interesting. I mean, they're obviously the band that everyone loves to hate. But Pierre, Richard looks like your brother from another mother. You've got the funky hair, you've got the tattoos, very interesting. What have you learned from him that you've maybe applied to your public speaking gigs and also maybe your strategy work?
Oh, sure. So, I mean, Rich has been extremely generous to me in my career. So I met Rich I think about 10 years ago, maybe more, when I was fresh on the speaker circuit, and he helped me do my first show reel and gave lots of advice on how to approach clients, how to price your talks, how to deliver, like all those and different things, and a ton of different tips on just how to be a better speaker, how to flow, how to resonate with the audience, how to build a talk. And I think some of the biggest things that I've learned from Rich is I mean, that line, your audience can never enjoy your talk as much as you, they can only enjoy it as much as you enjoy giving it. That's Rich. Like, he said that. And he also, there's a bunch of different things where he talks about how you frame your talk and your problem. Like, you always start with the problem first. So he has this famous thing where he says, where he says, the way that you design your elevator pitch, you start with, when how you. So it's like, you say, how when you feel really confused and trapped, well, what I do is. So that's a little recipe. You know how when you, well, what I do. And that way, and it's so funny when I'm talking about Clara Anna, the business network earlier. It's like when people do their 1 minute, so few people do that in the right way, or the way that Rich actually taught me. It's like, you start with a problem and then you say how you solve it. And most of them go up and say, we are so and so consultancy and we help you with investments. We go, that's
Cool.
not very exciting. Like, you need to start with the problem first. And it's like almost like old school advertising. I was joking with one of my other founder friends who's raising funds now in Silicon Valley as we speak, being founder. And I told him, I was like, this is such an old way of advertising, going, hungry? Burgers. Dirty floor? Try our mop, right? It's like that sort of block drain cleaner, right? But we don't do that. We talk about ourselves first. Like, you say, drain cleaner, drain cleaner, drain cleaner. It's like, I don't need drain cleaner. It's like, do you have a block drain? Oh, yeah, I do. Okay, drain cleaner. So, and that way of speaking and building talks, I learned from Rich, and it's such an obvious thing, but he just made it so clear. Going, like, when you speak, you have to get people to care in the beginning. They have to feel the problem, like, on their skin. And going, so for example, the talk I did at Psycho was about teams. It's like getting people to care about how messy and how difficult it is to build a team. And once you get them to care enough, then they'll listen for the rest of the 40 minutes. But
Yeah.
if you just start with tips and tricks, people don't care as much. So you have to go, hungry? Burgers. Right?
Yeah.
That's the
No, that's a great answer, Pierre. I really love that. You've got a daily newsletter. Tell me about setting it up, creating the content, and how does it fit in with your strategy work and everything? Because I mean, it's a lot to do to send out an email Monday to Friday.
yeah, my little daily letter. So I started my little daily letter in 2017 or 2018. So I've been writing it for a while. I've written thousands, and we've put some of them into a book. So it might be time for another one because I've written so many. And it's sort of evolved as my own professional journey has evolved. It'll be whatever I'm thinking about or focusing on at the moment. So in the last couple of years or so, it's all about teams and strategy and how to make decisions and discern how to build the life that you want and the business that you want. And so like it's been about those themes. So it's really the daily letter is really almost like my journal. It's things that I need to learn or things that I'm interested in. It's and then using that and saying, well, inviting people and saying, well, come on this journey with me. This is what I'm thinking about this week, and this is what I'm thinking about today. And just sharing it, and it arrives like early in the morning, and then people use that as part of their almost like little reflect time in the morning, and often reply. So I get replies to the mail every single day, and I reply to every single one and people sharing their stories, sometimes like long emails, people sharing really intimate and personal stories and struggles. And it's been such a blessing to do it. It's probably one of the best things that I've like ever done for myself and for business and career and all of that, is to write that little daily letter. And it sort of fits at the moment. It obviously talks quite a bit about strategy and how to make decisions and those sorts of things, but it tries to navigate between personal and business all the time. I think those two things go together. Like I think we need to be better humans so we can build things that matter, so things that will shake the world and move the world forward.
Mm.
And I think those two things matter. So especially for founders as well, but for everyone.
No, excellent, Pierre. Look, I'm a big fan of it. I read it every day. I've sent you a couple of my own replies. I think it's really cool. I mean, sometimes it's a long thing, sometimes it's a short quote, sometimes it's a probing question. Sometimes, like this week, it's a Monday to Friday series, so you can't miss anyone. No, well done, man. It's a very unique concept. And I mean, it's added value to me, definitely.
Yeah, I'm glad. That's really glad. I think I stole the concept originally from Seth Godin. I mean, he's been writing his daily blog he does 7 days a week, and he's been doing it for like I don't know 15 years. But yeah, I enjoy it. Thank you that you like it. I really like it too.
Oh, awesome, Pierre. So, Pierre, you're going to be our speaker at an upcoming Clara Business Network meeting, and your topic is called "Kill Your Darlings." We've never had anyone want to come and talk to us about killing anything, so really looking forward to it. What can people expect on that night, without giving too much away?
Without giving too much away, so "kill your darlings" it comes from an expression like it's about decision making. So saying that there's some things in your life that you love, but they are not serving you. So there's some things in your business that you love and you care for and you've babied over the years, but it's not serving you. So you have to be brave. You have to be brave and then take your little darling out to the shed and do what is necessary, like and kill your darling so that you can actually focus on the thing that's really serving you, serving your business, serving your customers, all of those things. So the talk, I'll share a couple of thoughts around strategy about how to make decisions, how to figure out what to focus on, and try and make it as practical as possible in the short time that we have left, and give people like just one of the frameworks. So we use a lot of different frameworks, but I'll share one of the frameworks at the session that you can use to make a decision to go like, I want to focus on this, but not on this. Then I need to have the guts to kill your darlings.
Okay, excellent, Pierre. No, really looking forward to that. I think we're going to have a great turnout again, and yeah, looking forward to learning about the frameworks and really getting people to think about it in a different way, because oftentimes we just want to say yes to everything. We want to take on new things, add, but we don't subtract.
Exactly, and it just slows you down.
Yeah.
So need to make a decision. There's one of my favorite. It's actually from Seth Godin. One of his blogs was, "You don't need more time. You need to make a decision."
Awesome, Pierre. Pierre, we always wrap up our podcast recordings by asking the same question. And you shared quite openly about your experience with strategy and founders and things like that. But here in 2024, Pierre, are you in the right place?
Am I in the right place? I hope so. I'm like 95% sure that I've sort of found my little fit in the world. So I think I'm in the right place, helping people figure out what to do.
No, excellent, Pierre. No, that's a great answer. No, you seem to be a natural at it. You've built on all your experience around the world, around the country, working at many different interesting companies with some very interesting people. Some I've met personally, and I know, well, it would have been really cool to see Pierre in action at this company or with these people. Yeah, man, it's been great to get to know you over the last couple of months. Really looking forward to seeing you at the CBN very soon.
Awesome. Yeah, me too. Thank you so much for inviting and taking a risk.
Yeah, no, cool. No, yeah, well, I'm sure it's going to be worth it. I don't think it's a risky move at all. No, we appreciate your time and the effort that you're going to put into this. Pierre, thank you so much for joining us today on the Right Place podcast. And any last words from your side?
I can just reiterate, you need to be brave to make a decision.
Excellent. I agree with that. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for listening. Please like, share, comment, share it with your friends and family, your colleagues as well. Please don't forget to follow Pierre. Subscribe to his daily newsletter. I promise you it's worth it. It's not spam. It's definitely lots of wisdom, lots of gold nuggets there to get you going for the day. And we'll see you next time at the right place.